So we are live. And De Silva, namaste, assalamu alaikum, and welcome to the Experience School convos that we have with inspiring authors like you every Sunday at 19:30 hours India time. So we are looking forward to learning more about your books. Welcome to the Experience Conversations.
So namaste, merhaba, walaikum salam, and a big hello to all my friends who are on your channel, friends who I know and I don't know, and I'm honored to be on your show. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anne. And it's a small world. A friend of mine, Bunty Behel, just reached out to me and said, I know Anne very well too. Bunty and I are very close. In fact, Bunty's wife and my wife are, childhood friends. So he said, very nice, very small world. And, I'm happy to see that you're having a chat with Anne today. So I'm sure that he's going to log in. So Anne, before we begin, I basically invite authors from around the world, and we focus on three genres specifically. We focus on autobiographies, true stories of real leaders. When I say real leaders, I'm not talking about the president of the United States or the prime minister of India, because they could be far from being leaders. You know what Donald Trump was all about. Yeah. But we're talking about people who are real leaders and true, real heroes, very ordinary people who are making a huge difference in our world, right? So autobiography stories like what I write in my book. So that's the first genre. The second genre is self-help, personal development, and transformation, right? Because we firmly believe at the Rex Karmavir Global Fellowship mission that to change anything in the world, it begins with you. So we have a very simple mantra to change the world. I change to change the world. I change to change the nation. I change to change society, right? So these are the first two genres that we focus on. And then the third genre is books that focus on social issues that are plaguing our world and need and deserve our attention, right? I think your books actually fall in the third genre, because the feel I get from your books is that even though you're writing fiction, you're trying to kind of bring out the entire concept of being a humanist and going beyond religions, going beyond labels, and talking of oneness. And I look forward to learning more about the trilogy of books that you've written so far, and what they stand for, right? So to begin with, Anne, if we had to get rid of all your titles, all the positions that you hold, all the awards, right? This is what we do in Johari Window, which is like a self-help tool. And we asked you to describe yourself as an individual. What are the 7 descriptors which would define Anne the individual in the best possible way, right? Without your titles, without your qualifications, without whatever. And these descriptors could be nouns, verbs, adjectives, roles, responsibilities, values, principles, whatever is something that drives you. And it could be one word or a set of words. So what would those 7 be?
So I'm a believer.
Believer?
That's how a believer.
Okay. Okay, well, and how would you unpack that entire concept of believer?
So the first fact is, when I look inside myself, the driving force in me is love.
Okay.
And I think love is way powerful than politics, religion, or anything. Mm-hmm. It's what gets the sun to rise in the morning, mm-hmm, and what gets the moon to come up in the evening.
Okay.
If love was to die from this world, I think the world would cease to exist,
Okay. So you're
I'm
a believer
in that.
So yes, do you believe in God? Do you believe in religions, or do you go beyond that?
Yes, I do. Okay. I do believe in God, mm-hmm, okay, and I respect my views, mm-hmm, and I respect other people's views. So okay, I never impose my personal beliefs on others. Sure. I think we all have our own callings, our own journeys, and our journeys take us to this place of growth, spiritually, mentally, socially. And the end purpose should be, what is that belief doing for you? If that belief is making society and the world better, mm-hmm, then you're on the right track.
Right.
If it is bringing division, if it is causing conflict, then you have lost your path.
Right.
So that's how I look at it.
And I could actually argue with you on this, because I'm not a believer, I'm an atheist. And I could actually say that most religions, unfortunately, teach love, but the followers practice something else. What are your
But
thoughts on that?
yes, but so very good question, Jerry. It's in my book also.
Right.
The point is that religion is two aspects, like a coin. Okay, so if a coin is religion, there are two parts to it: the heads and the tails.
Right.
The head is the universality of the message of love. Okay, that is unadulterated, uncorrupted, and that is the leading factor.
Right.
What is corrupted is structured religion.
Right.
Which is I, me, myself.
Right. Organized religion.
My clan, my sect, my this, which
Right.
is garbage.
Right.
What is the winning point is the universality of religion. And the same thing for love. You see, when people get heartbroken or relationships break up, they say, I will never love again.
Okay.
Nor is God or love to be blamed. It's that person who has given you a bad experience, or the person in power who has misused his or her power to break up, the feeling of friendship, unity, etc. So I love atheists because atheists function on logic.
Right.
If you can appeal to their logic in terms of the true sentiment of the universe, they are believers. They are bigger believers, stronger believers.
Yes.
Unlike requiring a book to study,
we believe about not believing. So yeah. So
it's like agree to disagree. It's fine.
So like I was saying, I mean, I was born. I don't know if your family practices Christianity, but I was born in a family in Goa which practices Christianity, very staunch Roman Catholics, and somehow it always challenges me that most of these Roman Catholics who follow Jesus Christ don't even know what Jesus Christ's biggest teaching is, and they go all over the place. Love thy neighbor, this, and I'm like, his biggest teaching is forgiveness. And if you don't know how to forgive your own brother and sister, what good is it following that religion, right?
You're absolutely bang on. You're absolutely bang on. Mine is a little more interesting story than you. One, I'm an exotic combination of Portuguese and Irish. I'm a khichdi, as they call in India. But I reverted to Islam 5 years ago.
Right.
And I didn't revert to Islam to become a Sunni or Shia. I reverted to Islam because I wanted no intermediary between me and my creator.
Right.
Do you understand where I'm coming from?
Yes, I do.
I wanted the purity of a personal relationship between creation and creator.
Okay.
And that nobody has to be taught. It's inbuilt, engraved in every single creature on this earth.
Sure.
Nobody has to be taught. It's like the umbilical cord connection.
Right.
Where was the child most happy? In the womb of the mother.
Right.
Where was the most trauma? Being separated from the mother and come into the world of learning.
True.
We have to go back to the world of unlearning to find true love, to find unity, to find peace, to enjoy and celebrate that.
Yeah, and I think we'll go into more detail over there later. So the first one you said is a believer, and I've understood more of that. What are the remaining 6 now, which would define the individual in the best possible?
I am love. I am love.
All right.
And so I believe in cultural inclusion and diversity. I believe that everyone has a right to an opinion, but nobody has a right to judge a person for their preferences.
Right.
Judgment comes from a very negative place. I come from a place of love, so acceptance is my orientation. So whatever a person may choose, I mean, I can love that person completely as a friend, respect that person, because that person is unique. Their choices are unique. The world begins when they are born and the world ends when they leave. So you can't take that uniqueness from them. So I believe secondly in love.
All right, very nice.
Strong, hardcore believer of love.
So a believer, and then I am love. So you believe in love. Very nice. What does the third one be? This is getting interesting.
Die-hard optimist.
All right.
I mean, there is no way someone can put off that fire.
Okay.
Because I wake up every morning how I can make this world a better place.
Okay.
This is my personal goal.
Right.
And it has been since I was a child.
Very nice.
A little kid trying to make a difference. Now it's a grown woman trying to make a difference. And nothing has changed.
Great. Excellent.
It's not like I didn't have bad experiences. It's not like I didn't stumble and fall. Like every single person, I've had issues. But I have the strength to accept vulnerability.
Right.
And not be ashamed of vulnerability.
Very nice.
You
And
know, most of the time.
that's the core learning in our Mojosh Inspirator book. And we always explain this, that vulnerability is weakness in the dictionary, right? In the Oxford or the Collins or whatever dictionary one uses. But in the human space, vulnerability is power, because like you said, it helps you to keep an open mind, to accept other views, to accept other viewpoints, because you can't be reasonable without applying reasoning and understanding different viewpoints before reaching an informed decision. So I like that. Very nice, excellent. So it's the flow is going well.
And also one thing, Jerry. Yeah, thanks. And Jerry, there's one more thing. We all live in glass castles.
Right.
Yet we're throwing stones on people. Vulnerability is knowing that you live in a glass castle.
Right.
And you're fragile.
Absolutely.
And you respect that fragility in you. And that's why you respect others' fragility.
Right.
Because you know we are all frail at the end of the day.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and we've gone very in depth in our Mojosh Inspirator personal transformation and development book, where we explain how vulnerability and the concept of mortality are very linked. Because if you don't understand that, and you're not aware that you will die one day, you tend to also squander your time, not only waste it, but squander it, because people don't actually take the moments of life very seriously. Most people actually squander their time without realizing that time is not money, time is life. Yes, very nice.
Very well said. Very well said.
Yes. So the fourth one, this gets difficult as you go towards the seventh.
No, I'm totally loving it.
Okay.
So I totally, first is belief, second is love, third is die-hard optimist. Yes. And then this whole inclusion and diversity and so on.
Okay.
And also the fact that I feel that every human being can impact change.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody can say, not even a child can say that I cannot impact change.
Absolutely.
You have to be brave to stand up for the things you believe in.
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree more, because that's what the Rex Karmavir Global Fellowship and the Karmavir Awards are all about. And we had 4 children as our ambassadors when we started way back around almost 2 decades ago, because our message to the grown-ups was, if the children can champion change, what stops you? And if you see around the world, it is the children who are championing change today, right? It was Severin Suzuki who championed change in 1992 and told the UN World Assembly that if you cannot fix it, don't break it anymore, because the world does not belong to you, it belongs to us, the future generations. And 30 years later, 1992 to 2022, the world is more broken because of many people who just won't apply wisdom. And I can go on about this, but I like that everyone can champion change. And like I was telling you earlier, our passion mantra at the Rex Karmavir Global Fellowship is, I change to change society, I change to change the country, I change to change the world, I change to change everyone and everything. So by making small changes in yourself, you're impacting change, right?
Correct.
And you also spoke about diversity and inclusion. Do you want to unpack that a little? Because that's a very important and critical need for our times.
It's critical, absolutely critical, because there is a fear attached with acceptance of diversity. First is acceptance of diversity, then only can there be inclusion.
True.
If you do not accept diversity and you fear it, like they used to earlier say, they fear change. Let's break change down a little bit. What is the fear in change? The change is that you are different, your thoughts are different because of your exposure, your value systems, your location, your orientation, your everything. That's what makes you unique, because you are different from me. So when we cannot accept diversity, obviously we cannot include it.
Very true.
And there again comes the stigmas that says, oh, this color person cannot do this, or this age person cannot do this, or this gender cannot do this, or, as they have LGBT nowadays, they cannot be accepted because they are weird, because they cannot accept diversity. Difference threatens their comfort zone.
Absolutely. Because you touched a very raw nerve, because I always explain to people that xenophobia is not just Raj Thackeray and Bal Thackeray and Shiv Sena. Xenophobia is every human being, right?
Yeah.
you like to belong. You like to belong to a community, a race, a caste, a tribe, and you need to actually unbelong, or a religion, or a region, or a whatever. And the whole idea is you need to unbelong because it's all about oneness. And in our Mojo Inspirator book, we have a lot of detailing on this, because diversity and inclusion is what every corporate needs to adhere to now.
Yes.
But while they have diversity and inclusion champions, I know many HR heads who have huge biases and prejudices against people from the LGBTQ community, people from the Islamic community, right? In India specifically. And I know around 2017, a person who I trained earlier in a company called Tech Mahindra, she was the HR head, mind you. So she was the custodian of diversity and inclusion. And she always had this biases against people from the Islamic community and, of course, people from the LGBTQ community. And I would tell her, they're just human beings, just like you and me.
Exactly.
Right? It's their nature. So just accept it and be cool about it. Now, in 2017 or 18, she made a nasty remark to a boy from the community who was working with Tech Mahindra. And I like what the company did. They fired her on the spot. Right? Because they said,
Bravo.
They said, you're not fit to be our HR head, because if you have problems with people from different communities, you can't celebrate diversity and inclusion. So we need to go beyond the sloganeering, and we need to go beyond the 1 week celebrations. It needs to become us. It needs to get embedded in our DNA that a person who's from the transgender community is as human as you and me, and they have a right to their life and livelihood, right? So I'm happy that you brought that up, and I think that's
and also the empathy for them, that they have struggled so much. Absolutely. They need a friend.
Absolutely.
A friend who cares.
Absolutely.
I mean, we at the end of the day are people, as you beautifully said.
Right.
And you need to be a friend to people at the end of the day.
And that's what,
not the tags and brackets, they really don't matter.
Absolutely. And you spoke about the umbilical cord earlier, and in the book we write that all of us 7.5 billion people are connected with the invisible umbilical cord. We just don't realize it because we don't have that empathy and that consciousness to understand that. Okay, so the
sorry, you are an atheist, but to take you to religion originated from that first umbilical cord. That's why we're all brothers and sisters to each other in some way.
And I can go on about Adam and Eve, so don't get me started on that. I'm actually actually forming a stand-up act on that, right? So anyway, okay, so the 6th and 7th are left now.
Okay, so I think I would like to put the 6th with 2 words. Mindfulness. Mindfulness and unlearning. Because mindfulness is where you are as an observer, your internal mindfulness, external mindfulness, mindfulness in society, mindfulness in relationships, and the unlearning. Because what was valid 20 years ago is not what it is today.
Right.
What was valid 5,000 years ago is not valid today. What was valid 50,000 years ago when there was the caveman is not valid today. I mean, Absolutely. The caveman might take his club and chase you, but you can sit in your car and put it in 4th gear. You don't even have to, get into conflict there. So yes, mindfulness and unlearning.
And it's actually connected to vulnerability, because we call it the law of transformation in the Mojo Inspirator learning. And I'm very happy that you brought this out, because one of the most essential skills of the future is this concept called learning to learn, which is about unlearning and relearning. So so those are the 7 descriptors that define Anne well. So we know Anne a little better.
I have one last one.
Go ahead, please.
One last one. I'm a voice for women.
Okay.
Because I feel that even in my books, I believe that every woman is a daughter of the sea.
Right.
Because there is this common question or statement that is made by men. You can never understand a woman. My answer is, why do you want to understand something when you can celebrate it?
Right.
You get a box full of chocolates. You're not going to sit and unwrap the chocolate and say, can I get the recipe? You're going to enjoy that because it's a gift to you.
True.
And the same thing to the male gender, rather than judging them and putting them in brackets that they have to be macho and never cry and never do this. It is individual, unique people. And so therefore I stand for a voice of where there is injustice to women, because women empowerment is a very new thing in society. It has
Right.
not been, it's always been a patriarchal society for centuries, you know. And there are some women who've taken feminism to its extreme. But I'm that kind of believer in empowerment by being feminine. I don't want to lose my female characteristics in me to be
Right.
able to send a message, because the
Right.
message needs to be more powerful than the voice.
Right. And that's what we learn in NLP, the balance of the male and the female, because every individual has that, right? It's the chemical balance, right? So
Right.
excellent. Thank you, Anne, for sharing all those descriptors which define you in the best way. And now for the next segment, which is where we ask you and invite you to share your life story and your journey of life from childhood. I caught up a little on it before we went live, but I would
Yeah.
like the audience to learn more about Anne from your childhood to now, to what you're doing now in Istanbul in Turkey,
Yeah.
and what actually drives you, right? So you have 10 minutes exclusive screen time, right? So the virtual stage is all yours. Just walk us through your life story so that the audience who has joined us, and thank you for joining joining us on Facebook Live, to everybody who's participating. Here's getting to know Anne better. Anne, over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So I think I'm an ordinary person who has an extraordinary life, a life that is full of blessings, a life that came with struggles and challenges, but that only brought out the best in me. It only showed the strength in me. It only made me meet my inner self, the inner girl in me. I was born in Delhi. I lived in this beautiful city when there were no mobile phones, because I am in my 40s. So at that point in time, it was a simple life, simple things like Doordarshan, simple things like the cola bottle, the Crispies that we ate. And we had very limited needs at that point in time. So that's the beauty of growing up at that age. And then I went to college also in Delhi, and then my family moved to Mumbai. So I got best of both the worlds. I got the childhood in Delhi, which was conservative and protected, and we could trust the watchman uncle to bring all the children with their bags home. And compared to a world where we live now, when there is so much of fear for children and children's security, we were not exposed to that at that point in time. And I was blessed to have the corporate world in Mumbai for more than 2.5 decades. And most of my details are on LinkedIn. I worked with telecom, I worked with travel, I worked with banking industry, I worked with the Sara group of companies last. But I think my calling was always writing. And you know, I was a born poet, so I've been writing poetry since I was a child, and I keep a journal. So I've always written down my poetry in my journal. And I also had a life-changing moment for myself spiritually when I moved from Catholicism to Islam. And that happened for me because I was very deeply connected, which is partly biopic in my book, to my dreams that I had. And I was searching for my spiritual strength. And I found that in Turkey. I came to Turkey in 2017, and then came back again in 2018, and finally relocated in 2019. I'm a very liberal person. I'm very open minded. I always speak my mind. And I think that's very important, to have your own opinions, you know, not be influenced by, the excess data that is there through technology. And I wrote my first book, which was called Footprints in the Sand, from the Sand and Sea series. And this was released in 2019. And this one was the second book, which is Child of Two Worlds, which was released in 2021. I wanted to be a travel writer. That's my niche. I wanted people to experience a country, its ethos, its history, its culture. How did the cities get its name? What role did nature play in this? So my book has a lot of philosophy in it, a lot of spirituality in it. It's a story of soulmates seeking the higher love, you know, not the espresso coffee love that gets cold and has to be replaced with a hot one, but a love that is like fire, you know, which cannot be extinguished, which makes a home warm, something that, you know, burns all the impurity in us and brings the best out of us. So this is what the series is all about. And it also talks about Turkey's great humanitarian work in taking in 5 million Syrian refugees, because during our time and age, the Syrian war and the loss and displacement of people, we saw how that went. And unlike the Rohingyans, when they were displaced, they were not taken in by many countries. Turkey took in these refugees, rehabilitated these refugees. You will find a lot of churches in Turkey which are still preserved with its natural beauty and with respect. Not because it's a church, it's pulled down and replaced by a mosque. No, it does not happen like that here. So this whole cultural acceptance is a lot in Turkey. There's a lot of beauty here. There's a lot of history here. In one city of Istanbul, you have Europe and you have Asia. So you have two continents in one city. So it's very mystical. It's very magical. And I've been here since 2019. I love living here. I'm on my third book now. And I also came out with a poetry compilation on women empowerment called Verses of a Risen Phoenix. I'm a speaker on women empowerment. I want to make my contribution to tell girls at a young age that they can have the wings to fly as high as they want to fly. And they cannot be confined just by being of a particular gender. And for women who struggle with issues, I feel that I wish to use my own experiences of how I've risen from those and how I found my own inner strength to inspire them to have the strength to stand for themselves. So that's me in a nutshell.
Excellent, Anne, and pleasure getting to know you better. So
yes, Jerry, likewise.
Tell me what kind of made you move from Christianity to Islam? Because the way I see it, right, is the original organized religion was Judaism, right? And then because of Jesus Christ, Christianity was born, and so another business model was started, and then Islam kind of came. They are the Abrahamical religions, right? So what difference did you observe that made you feel that this calling will be better than what you were born into, or a family that you were born into, probably, which practiced Christianity and Catholicism?
Yes, it's a very good question, Jerry. Because one, I was born Catholic, and so I was also a church-going girl. I did the novenas and everything else, and you're from Goa, so you understand how that works. You have novenas to various saints and all of that, which, according to me, even as a child, I questioned, because I believed that you don't need an intermediary to speak to God.
Right.
Okay. And in Catholicism, there are many intermediaries. So if you've lost something, you go to the saint. If you want to find something, you go to that saint.
Mm-hmm.
Then they've even made a saint out of an angel who nobody has seen, called Saint Michael. How did he become a saint?
Right.
So there are all these questions.
Those are all great fundraising models. The church is the best fundraiser in the world.
Yes,
right.
Yes. But they've also clouded the mind of the people with so many rituals that they have no time. For their personal relationship with God.
Right. They even have a saint for cancer, by the way. So
yes. And if you ask me, these saints were exemplary human beings. I'm not taking that from them. Right. And if they were to be alive right now, they would slap the people who have put them onto statues, because they never wanted the recognition. They wanted to give the service. You have to understand. True. When you're spiritually enlightened, you are more focused to serving than getting recognition.
Right.
None of these saints would ever want to be put up on a pedestal with a golden stand and say he or she did this. Like even Peter, for that matter, had one pair of slippers. He was hung upside down and crucified for standing up for the cause. How did Vatican end up giving him a gold crown and a staff of gold? So that's, where structured religion has lost the essence and connection with the originality.
Right.
So I wanted to be where the originality is. I believe that the bird talks to his creator when his wings are hurting. Mm-hmm. And so does the butterfly, and so can I. I wanted the intermediaries to go away. And in Islam, that is it. You do not have to do confessions to people who are flawed like us. You do your confession directly to God. It's your personal relationship with him. It's got nothing to do with a second human being. It's like a preference of a perfume or a preference of clothes or a preference of somebody you might fall in love. It's individual. And this individual is very powerful because this individual relationship takes you deeper inside yourself to bring the best out of you.
Right.
And I don't think these components of Islam is often seen. And so therefore the whole Islamophobia comes from the fear of the terrorists, which are either ways poor things, sick minds who need to be rehabilitated because they're so brainwashed by somebody else's ideology that they've forgotten to be human beings, you know.
Absolutely.
So I don't look at Islam from the structured aspect. I look at Islam from the universal essence of what God is. And everybody in this world has a right to call God what name he wants or she wants.
Right. So the way I see it is that you're looking at it more from a Sufi point of view than an Islamic point of view.
But Sufi and Islam is the same. The difference is the structured and the unstructured.
And I could debate on that because a lot of Sufis will tell you that it's very unstructured.
Unstructured. Yeah. I'm unstructured because even in Islam, there are a lot of people who are unstructured and you will find them as the liberal ones.
Right.
They're not structured because structure talks about 24 hours. Unstructured talks about the spirit's journey in a human experience. There's a very big difference between the two.
Okay, so great. So I'm happy to get clarity on what makes you think that that branch is better, and like I have already shared.
It's not about better or worse, Jerry. It's about what worked for me.
What works for you? Absolutely, it's an individualistic choice. Yeah. So I completely agree with you. And I like what you spoke about confessions, and I often struggle with it. Even as a kid, I struggled with it because I hurt Anne, and I go and confess to a priest sitting in his booth who tells me to say 3 Hail Marys, and I'm like, okay, so my place in heaven is still assured, is it? Right. By the way, I must share this with you and the audience. The confessions is the new way that they allow you to sin. The original, when they were building the church, was that they had a rate card, and it was called indulgence fees, right? So if Jerry wanted to go and have a drink, it was like $5. If Jerry wanted to go and gamble, it was like $5 plus $5, $10. If Jerry wanted to go and kind of do something else and indulge in his vices, he had to then pay $50. So that's how I always joke with my priest friends that the church was built on sin, right? The indulgence fees, and they did it by selling the concept of heaven, the kingdom of heaven, well, right? Which unfortunately today, I think almost every religion and every follower is led by that belief of the kingdom of heaven. And in that process of seeking that heaven, you unfortunately make the world a worse off place.
But it's a tragedy, Jerry, because at the end of the day, when we look at who is going to fill hell, will not be you and I. It'll be these ones who led the flock astray.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, if it is commerce, it can't be God.
Right.
God
Absolutely
does not belong to anybody. He is for everybody.
Right.
And that is where cultural diversity and inclusion again comes, because he's made everybody from all colors. How can you put somebody in this color, say, no, you cannot, or this, country or orientation, you cannot? Who is a human being to say that?
Right. And you're so right. It's been so challenging to think of Christ as this blonde, fair-looking, blue-eyed dude when he was born in the Middle East.
Exactly. That's Roman influence. Yes. And if you see the codices and the artists that painted him, it's all there. But I don't think even a Catholic has read the codice, which in 565 or something was the first time when, the emperor merged the Roman Empire with Catholicism.
Right.
They have actually made the Trinity. They've actually made putting up statues. They've actually made all of this. And if you see, the beauty of what Christ spoke about was community prayer.
Right.
Which is what we all do when we are with friends. We wish them well. We pray for their health and happiness and everything else, which is community prayer. Right. You don't need to be in a building to feel it.
Right. So, I mean, I know my mom still can't accept it that, I don't believe in any God or any saint, right? Or did you face any resistance when you were, going through this transformation?
So, I have to share a childhood episode with you for you to understand my mom and how she understood me, because she understands me beautifully. And my mom's my inspiration in life, because even though she's a very silent person, she is a person who's a great observer. When I was barely 5 years old, and we were obviously in catechism class, and you had to say the Our Father, I said, I will never say Our Father, I'll say my Father, because it's individual praying to God.
Right.
And my parents were summoned because your child is not saying Our Father and saying my Father like she owns God, you know?
Right.
At that point, my mother understood that I wanted a personal relationship with God. I did not want a generic, statement which does not connect you. Because when you go to your parent, and this is a human form, you don't say Our Father, you say, Daddy, can you do this for me? Now remove the body and talk about the spirit, which is God. You will go to say, my Lord, I'm in trouble, can you help me? You will not say, Our Lord, can you help me? So you understand, it's always individual.
Right.
And so, my mother knew my struggle. She knew I became a Bible teacher. I've studied the King James Version, Jerusalem Version. I used to speak on Christianity. And so when I actually made this decision to follow Islam, she asked me, is it because you want a personal relationship with God? And my answer was yes. And I never had any
and your mother's Irish, you said, right?
Yes, Orthodox.
You can't get more staunch than that, right?
And
So,
she still prays her, does her rosary, prays her Bible. But during Ramadan, she's the person who cooks food for me when I break my fast.
excellent.
So we have this beautiful acceptance relationship.
Excellent.
Where she respects my search, my struggles as her child to find my answers. And I respect her for her choices.
I'm happy that you shared and clarified for the audience. Of course, there are some comments which have been posted, which you can read later about. Someone's also commented about how you could follow a different branch of Christianity. I like what you spoke about the Islamophobia being there because they don't really understand the doctrines, the good practices. I shouldn't say doctrines or dogmas because those are all the blind beliefs that you advocate, right? But the good practices which even people who practice Islam don't know, right?
Yes.
And then this world over, you have this entire thing that all terrorists are Muslims. No, all terrorists are not Muslims and all Muslims are not terrorists. And I want to clarify this for the audience and all the people who are watching, that the first organized terrorist outfit in the world was not Muslim. It was not Islamic. It was Catholic. It was called the Irish Republican Army, right? And that's the connect. All right.
Yeah.
So moving over to the books, you've written these 3 books, and we'll learn more about that. And like I had shared with you earlier in the mail, right? I write books which are true stories of real heroes. When I say real heroes, I'm not talking about movie stars or rock stars or cricket stars or football stars. I'm talking about very ordinary people.
Yes.
Some of whom are much more ordinary than me. Many of them have never gone to a school or a college, and they are changing the world in a big way. Right. So whether it's a Lakshman Singh who's transformed over 500 villages from wastelands into wetlands in a country where wetlands are converted into wastelands, right? Or Dashrath Manji, who actually inspired me because he's the man who moved the mountain. And Ketan Mehta made a movie on him in 2015, right? The Mountain Man, as it is called. So Dashrath Manji, a chance meeting with him in 2003, when I started the Joy of Giving movement, actually inspired me. And then we have the Karmakari Kid Power stories, which are stories of children, right? Who are actually changing the world in a big way. And these are not children from privileged families. They're children from underserved families. And I was inspired to write this because I said, children from privileged families should know that they are not entitled to anything just because they have a good education from an expensive school, because these are the ones who are actually championing change and making a difference, right? And we spoke earlier about how children can actually teach us how to champion change. And then that led to the self-help book called Mojo's Inspirator. So for me, I look at myself as a historian for everyday or ordinary and unsung heroes. What inspired you to get into this, and why these particular books? I mean, what is the theme, and what is the connect, right? Because on one side you're talking about humanitarian work, you're talking about making the world a better place, women empowerment. So and you also mentioned that part of it is biopic. So we want to know what is the story, and what is the connect and the theme of the 3 books?
Yes. So, yes, it is biopic because I wanted to talk about certain wounds of my childhood,
Mm-hmm.
certain vulnerabilities, to give others the strength to look at it as an example that your scars don't define you. Your scars is just a work of art. So I come from a broken family. My parents were Catholic, they never divorced, they lived separately, but that had a very big impact on me because I was dislodged from my childhood home in Delhi and had to move to Bombay with my mom. So, there was always this thing that, your presence of your dad is not in your life. And whenever the subject came up, when I was not brave enough till I hit 40 and I was not seeking anyone's validation, I would not want to talk about that subject. Then I went through a divorce when I was in my early 20s because, in India, people get married earlier. And then this whole stigma of divorced women and how divorced women are perceived. And, suddenly men will start texting you. When you were with their wives, they never texted you. But suddenly, now that you are divorced, they're texting you. And they feel that every divorced woman is looking for some fun. And that's the worst way of perceiving a divorced woman. A divorced woman is a person who has made a choice to be brave enough to think of a life away from something that was negative for her. So, yeah, there were stigmas, but I wanted that stigmas to come through a story. I wanted it to be a flow of a transition of a brave woman,
Mm-hmm.
a normal woman who's had the strength to, take her vulnerability and walk on the unseen path with faith. And so these books are about searching for your soulmate, searching for a relationship with a meaning, but also the description of what true love means. I always keep talking about this on countless platforms that love is not the espresso coffee. The espresso coffee age is where we live. People fall in love, they fall out of love. It's what you'd call infatuation or physical needs or whatever you can call it. But it just sounds more glorified to say, I love you. And people are dying for love because human connect has gone away, you see. And with this whole technology thing coming, and now with COVID coming, everyone wants to be seen and everyone wants to be loved, but that gets them exploited, you see. So I wanted to talk about the real message. What is the real message? The real message is finding yourself before you can find love, finding your essence and knowing who you are. Then you will attract your tribe with your vibe. So this is what the journey is. It's also about respect to nature, because in my books, nature is portrayed, which is Kumbh Denis, which is sand and sea, are portrayed as the first lovers of creation, made by God. Again, you're an atheist and you'll talk about science, but I don't believe in the Big Bang Theory, sorry. So the first lovers that were made in creation is the sand and sea, and you can never separate them. They can only go that far in low tide till they come back again. And love is like that. A woman is unmeasurable, like the sea, because she gives birth. You see, when you are a creator, you are a molder of pottery. You know how you're molding something within you. You cannot explain that. These things cannot be explained. So that's why woman has always been a muse and a mystery to men for generations. So I always say, don't try to understand the mystery. Enjoy the mystery. So yes, nature plays a very big role in this. Love plays a very big role. I'm trying to break stigmas to show that not everybody looks at a divorced woman in a negative context. It's people with bad intentions or judgmental people do. The world is not the same. Life is beautiful. We all have bad experiences. Those bad experiences is a part of life because it's a circle. You can't
Right.
jump the karmic circle.
Right. Right.
And I also feel the most important subject in the second book is about adoption. I feel that
The
all
second
these
book is The Child of Two Worlds.
yes, İki Dünyada Çocuk in Turkish, it's
Mm-hmm.
this one.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the Syrian refugee child as the spirit child found, by these two lovers who meet in this time and age. And they've had a connection, a karmic connection from an earlier life or a parallel life. Yeah. I don't
Excellent.
want to give away more, otherwise I'll be killing it for the audience.
Right, and we'll get you to read some of those paragraphs
Sure.
maybe from your books later.
Yeah.
So I like what you shared, which includes about the brokenness that you felt at several times, and we actually have a series called Karma Kari Karishma, which celebrates broken heroes.
Yeah.
And not just broken physically or mentally or emotionally, but even morally. Like, I mean, people who have been gangsters, narcotics
Yeah.
traffickers, right?
Yes.
But who have completely reformed now. And people who are broken in spirit, right? Because you can get broken in 5 different ways, because that's what we teach in the Mojo Inspirator self-help books, how to keep your mental, emotional, spiritual, moral, and physical health robust, right? And the premise of the Karishma series is that in life, all of us at some point or the other break, and no one can escape that, right? Being broken is a part of life. You cannot escape suffering, you cannot escape struggle. You could be the most powerful man on earth, you could be the most poorest person on earth, right? You go through
Same.
that. But when broken, do you give up and break down, or do you persevere and break through? And we actually created a
Persevere.
oratory program called the Magnificent Seven, where
Yes.
we're all broken people, but we go and tell our stories, and then people
Yeah.
get the connect immediately that
Yeah.
if he can come back and come out of this, what am I doing with my life? So you see a person who's on a wheelchair who doesn't have any mobility saying, I am alive, I am the positive man. And people who are always
Absolutely.
whining about their lives are wondering, if he's alive and he's positive, what am I being so negative about? It's
Absolutely.
and it's the in psychological studies called the science of resilience. So that's what we teach
Yes.
through the Magnificent Seven oratory experience. So I want you to share with the audience, especially the aspiring writers, what is the process that you followed, the creative writing process that you followed to tell the story of Footprints in the Sand and The Child of Two Worlds? How did you kind of plan the plot? How did you plan the who the characters would be, because every story requires somebody who's a hero,
Yeah.
villain, and a victim, right? And then you
Yeah.
need to have the plot, you need to have the purpose, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
because we are actually kind of going to use parts of this conversation to teach children in schools and colleges creative writing, short storytelling.
Yes.
So in 10
Yeah.
minutes, can you explain to us how you put the books together,
Yeah.
starting with because verses, I guess, is all about thoughts,
All the poetry.
all the
Poetry.
poetry, but
Yeah.
Child of Two Worlds and Footprints in the Sand seem like stories.
Yes,
So
it is. It's a trilogy.
right,
Yes.
yes. So what is the process that you followed? How did you kind of create the characters? How did you create the plot? Do you want to share that with the audience and with all the
Sure.
students who would be watching this later?
Yes, I would love to.
Yeah.
Firstly, I would like to say to everybody that you need to be original and authentic. Original and authentic. It could be as broken as you are, and it could be as glorious as you have risen. It does not matter. What matters is originality and authenticity. When you accept originality and authenticity for yourself, then you can write things which come from within. As a writer, you will not be able to write a book from start to go. What happens is you have these complete mood changes and highs and lows as a creative artist. You have to keep penning it down. And then you have to have a blackboard or a whiteboard where you start putting in post-its that this is this place, this is this place, this is this place. You have to have a structure of your foundation of your house. Is it going to be a tower? Is it going to be a villa? Or is it going to be a hut? Even if it is a hut, it has to be descriptive of what it is totally. And you have to do justice to your characters. You have to let your characters, as if you're a outsider watching your characters, lead you to the story, not make your characters go where you want. That is not originality. That is forced intrusion. What would the character do is you have to put yourself inside that character's place. You've got to feel the emotions, because if a reader feels the emotions, it's because the writer has felt those emotions. So again, coming back to accepting your vulnerability, accepting your wounds, accepting your originality and your authenticity, and then writing the story. And yes, of course, you have to have a proper structure to it as to who is the main character, who is the fictional characters, who's the protagonist, who's the antagonist, and where is that journey going. So you have to be very clear about the start point and the end point so you don't get lost in the maze. Because sometimes what happens with writers, they get lost in the maze. When I started writing Footprints in the Sand, I wanted to write one book. But when I saw my whole whiteboard, so to say, it was definitely content for 3 books. It could not come in one. So I said, okay, I will do justice with each of the books. And I love to leave clues. I like to create curiosity. You have to look at your reader's mindset. How do you challenge your reader? If it's just going to be plain Jane, like just the other 10 books that you read before. And you know what's the biggest mistake people make? If they want to write a thriller, then they go and read the books of all the people who've written thrillers. So they don't bring in their originality. Your originality could be way more powerful if you give it a chance, you know? So my originality was to use spiritualism, which is nature, and to use soulmates and old traditions like, you know, India's old traditions, Turkey's old traditions. Of course, the influence of Semitic religions is very high in my books. And, you know, the whole progression there, because that's a subject I'm very passionate about. But it's a journey. If it's a journey about a broken woman finding hope through faith, then you've got to take them through that whole journey. You cannot break it in between. And so the journey progresses from India all the way to Turkey. And then Turkey has an extremely rich culture because it was ruled by so many various principalities. Istanbul itself is called Constantinople. And you have Göbekli Tepe now, which goes back to the Sumerian times. You have things in Dalian, which is during, you know, the early Roman mythological stories. So there's a lot of what we call masala that you can hive together and, you know, create interesting content. So yes, don't forget the start point and the end point. The journey is beautiful. Enjoy the journey, however long it takes you. Write, rewrite, because you can never get it right the first time. You know, I always believe this. Perfection comes with investment of time, and investment of time takes time. So don't be in a hurry to go to the end, because if you're in a hurry, your reader's going to catch it. It's like how a dog smells fear. Your reader will smell that, okay, now this author is jumping to the end. So I love this whole mystery. I ended the first book on mystery. Who is this child? And left it there. And then I started off the second with the man's journey, because where did he come from? He was a part of her dreams. And how did he arrive? So his whole journey. And I still haven't given away the child yet. That's going to come in the third book, you know? So yes,
Right.
I think that's how it's done. It's done with passion. It's done with believing that your characters will lead you to that place. It's about taking that journey with your characters, not telling your characters where to go. I don't work that way.
Right. Very nice. Very, very well explained, Anne, and thank you for sharing that. But, you know, if I had to kind of take you a little deeper into this and challenge you a little to think, you know, I mean, I don't know if you read Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey, right? So there are 12 parts to the entire hero's journey. And a lot of people in Hollywood actually use the hero's journey as a format to create what they call as the storyboard, right? So let's look at the storyboard of a very popular book called To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, right? Ordinary world is sleepy Macomb, Alabama in the 1930s, white family, father's a practicing lawyer, called to adventure, a black man gets accused of rape, right? And the first, reaction or response is refusal, that why should I get involved in somebody else's rape case, even though I'm a lawyer, because I'm a white lawyer, and, you know, it's just not done in those times. And then there's a mentor or a helper, somebody who nudges you to actually take that step, and you cross the threshold, and then you test your allies and your enemies, and you create an approach, and you go through the ordeal, because, you know, all the Ku Klux Klan and the white, the supremacists are going to target you. And then you have the reward, because you win the case by ensuring that there's justice, and it's not that a poor innocent man gets condemned. And then there's the
Yes.
road back, and that's the Joseph Campbell's 12 steps. There's
Storybook.
atonement and there's the return. So how would
Yes.
you, if I asked you to kind of walk us through the characters that you have, who are the main characters in your book? Because you spoke about this child, right?
Yes.
and
Yes.
and the child has to come from a man and a woman, right?
Yes.
So those are like, if I asked you, is there a hero, is there a villain, is there a victim, right?
Yeah. So the hero is the woman, basically.
Right.
She's the
Okay.
strong one. She's
Mhm.
breaking the cliches of going. She's not the damsel in distress.
Mhm.
She's the woman who has the strength to pursue her dreams and find her soulmate that she has a connection with from an earlier life.
Mhm.
And she takes an untreaded path to going to find him.
Okay.
Okay, and so there are endless obstacles that come in the way. Will the man be single? Will he be available? Will he be in a place to understand her? All those question marks. She's tested along the way. And
So
she's
so
always
she's also the victim then. She's also the hero, but she's also the victim.
exactly because
Okay.
she was a victim, she's not really a victim, she's a survivor.
Right.
I would like to call her a survivor.
Okay.
Survivor is the right word,
Right,
because she has not succumbed to her environment. She has grown out of the pit, like you have in Batman, where Batman jumps out of the pit with a leap of faith. You've got to do that. If you have a string holding you behind, you will fall.
Right.
So it's on that basis of a leap of faith.
Mhm.
And she takes that leap of faith and she goes to find this man and that child, which she sees in her dreams and everything else. But the reason why I'm not giving all of this away, because then the audience gets a summary to the story.
Right. You don't want to give them the spoilers right now. Yeah.
Yes,
Good.
exactly.
Excellent.
But yes, she's
Yeah.
the hero.
Right,
She's the main hero, and it's all about her story.
Right.
And the child, this connection that she feels as a mother with this kid that she's seen in her dreams. Who is
Right.
that child? Obviously, the child is born from somebody.
And the child
And
has yet to be unleashed, because you not yet kind of revealed the child in the first two books.
In the first book, second book, she's there,
Okay.
but her powers are not revealed.
Right.
Because
Okay.
innocence has powers. Innocence has the power to heal any wound.
Mhm.
That's why children are the greatest source of joy.
Right.
Every child is as innocent as the other one that is born. It is just the environment that destroys or builds a child.
Right. The nature
One
and the
has to
nurture.
remember. Exactly.
Nature and the nurture,
So-
as we call it in psychological and neuroscience studies. Yes.
Absolutely.
Excellent. So
So-
thank you, Anne, for that masterclass about short storytelling and how to kind of put the story together. And of course, we'll use parts of this with your consent
Of course.
to show it to kids and students in schools and colleges, so that, because I think the other essential skill of the future is storytelling. And
Yes.
I do a lot of corporate trainings and leadership coaching, and I see a lot of brilliant minds who don't actually go forward in their careers or in their life, only because they lack the communication and the presentation
Yes.
skills, which are very essential skills, and they don't teach you that in school and college, at least in India. So, and to conclude, we actually
May I
have
say
one.
one thing?
Yes,
May I
go
say
ahead, ma'am.
one thing
Go ahead.
before you conclude?
Yes,
Each and every human being is a story,
absolutely.
nothing more.
Absolutely.
And each and every name is just an adjective.
Absolutely.
My name, Anne, means grace. It's an adjective. We are created. That is why they say words have power.
Right.
The old Chinese saying says, stand by a tree and curse it every day and it will die. Because words have power. This is the mindfulness concept of being aware of how you use your words
Absolutely
to build
true.
society or break society, to
And
build
it's-
yourself or break yourself.
Absolutely. And it's the first lesson, the first principle in neuro-linguistic programming. So if you see NLP as a concept, it focuses on the brain. It focuses on the power of words to reframe or rewire the brain, and programming. How do you use models to program the brain? So yeah, that's a masterclass on its own. So we won't go there. But
And you're bang on. You're bang on. That's why we have affirmations.
absolutely.
Speaking to ourselves. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, and to conclude, we want you to read a couple of paragraphs from each of your books and one poetry from your third book, from the verses
Okay.
book. Yes. And of course, we look forward to that big announcement. So there's a big announcement going to happen from Anne's side, which I'm not going to reveal right now.
Inshallah.
Yeah, I'm sure, inshallah, it will happen. All right. Over to
Okay.
you, Anne.
Okay, thank you. I have a poem that's at the beginning of each of my books. So I'd like to take that opportunity to read that poem rather than read a segment of it because I love poetry. And I was told by my publisher it's going to be a total flop show if you add poetry to prose. But it's the opposite of that happened. People fell in love with the poetry. You know, they completely love the book because the characters sometimes talk to each other in poetry. It gives you the opportunity to make them into songs at some point in time.
Right.
So I'm going to use this opportunity to read each of the poems with which the book begins. The first book is Footprints in the Sand from the Sand and Sea trilogy. And the poem, people don't believe in the unseen anymore, only in things they can see for sure. They say love and soulmates exist no more. Yet they breathe an unseen air to live for sure. So that's the first one. So most of the beauty of life lies in the unseen. You know, we can't see what's happening behind our head, you know, we can only see this much, you know, and love, hatred, jealousy, passion, compassion, all exists in the unseen, just like the air that we breathe. Yet we give so much of stock to what we see. And now the second book.
Please do show the book to the audience, and I would request all the people who've joined us on Facebook Live, do go and buy Anne's books on Amazon or at the bookstore nearest to you. They are available at several bookstores, and they're also available in Turkish now. Anne, or
yes, it's translated. The launch date is in February. I will share that with you. Sure. And it's translated. The first book is translated, and it's going to be published in February.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is the second book, which is Child of Two Worlds. The poem here is, a beggar goes wherever coin is. A believer goes wherever faith is. So that's the second book. Yeah.
Very nice. A beggar goes wherever coin is, and a believer goes wherever faith is. And earlier you had said, attract your tribe with your vibe, right?
Yes.
So where are you? Are you in the coin part or the faith part?
I've always been in the faith part. I would happily give away the coin for faith.
All right.
Because through faith, the coin is guaranteed.
I'm going to send you my bank account number.
Please do so.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to try and take one of the poems that I like. A second. Okay, so this is one of the favorites, which I keep getting on my website. I'm going to read it. It's called Little Wild Flower. It's a little long, so you'll have to bear with me.
Sure.
Yeah. Little Wild Flower is the name of the poem, and it's in verses of a risen phoenix, as well as it's in the first book, which is Footprints in the Sand. Yeah. The little wild flower called out to 4 wise men in the square. O master gardener, so great is your craft to grow and bloom. O master painter, you immortalize creation on your canvas. O master poet, your words of praise resound in the wind for all time. O Hafiz, Hafiz is a religious man or a spiritual person, a Sufi or whatever you call them, or for any religion or any spirituality, just to explain to people, is also in Islam, a Hafiz means the man who can recite the whole Quran by heart. That is the technical meaning of Hafiz.
So incidentally, Hafiz was also a poet, and I begin the Mojosh Inspirator book with a very powerful live poem by Hafiz, where he says, you walk this earth and you don't even know who you are. And I'll share the poem with you later. So
Thank you.
Go
Thank
ahead.
you. But yes, you're right. And he's one of my favorite poets as well.
Yes.
But Hafiz is somebody who knows to recite the whole Quran by heart.
Absolutely.
O Hafiz, teacher and man of God, one who holds the light in his palms, can you adorn me in fame? O master gardener, can you plant me in your garden to grow and bloom, away from dust and lack of rain, He answered, only those of good stock grow in my blessed garden. For glory is given to those born of lineage, the chosen ones. O master painter, can I be the glory of your canvas? He answered, in the presence of the mighty rose and the brilliant sunflower, your color is pale. My canvas cannot adorn dull shades of nature. Is it not for this reason you were born a wildflower and not a rose? O master poet, your words are kind. Will you write words of praise for me? He answered, I write stories with happy endings, dear wildflower. People are not interested in sorrowful beginnings and struggles anymore. I can write your story only if you have a happy ending to show. So now she speaks to the last man. O Hafiz, will you reject me as well? He answered, how beautiful and innocent you are, little wildflower. For indeed, with hardship comes ease. Your humble beginnings and suffering is testimony of patience. I will wear you in my turban with joy. For faith has earned you reward. You shall blossom in gardens beneath which rivers flow. So this is society, which is the degree people, the lineage people, the perfect color, were always accepted. And the wildflowers are the raw ones, the broken ones, the work of art. It only takes a spiritual man and a johari, as they say, a jeweler, to know the value of a true diamond. So the true diamond is the little wildflower.
Beautiful. And it so resonates with our, the stories of broken people that we celebrate and we narrate in our the Mojosh Magnificent Seven inspirational oratory experiences. So thank you so much, Anne. Delightful having this conversation with you. We could go on, but I think we've gone over the time limit, and I'm sure you have other things to do. Are there any closing insights that you want to share with the audience about life? Anything in particular that's something that has touched you and is near and dear to your heart? Any one wisdom shot or a inspiring insight? Over to you, and then we shall close.
Thank you, Jerry. My wisdom shot comes back to you, Jerry, because I believe in the gratitude attitude.
Right.
I am deeply grateful for all the angels, the mentors, the teachers, the rich soil in which I, the wildflower, grew. And so even people like you are doing a great service to humanity. You're bringing stories from across the globe. You're bringing unsung heroes and talking about their lives, but you do not understand the effect you're causing. You're causing an effect of inspiration, which will last for eternity. Because one broken person just needs to be told that you're not abnormal because you're broken. Absolutely. One broken person needs to be told that you're a piece of art.
Absolutely.
And that's what you do, Jerry. You're absolutely brilliant at that.
Absolutely.
So with my gratitude attitude, I want to thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and thank you for those kind words.
I will say it in Turkish. Çok teşekkür ederim means thank you very much.
Thank you.
Çok memnun oldum, which is it's a pleasure to meet you, Jerry.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for making the time to be with us. And in Goa, we say obrigado, which is actually a borrowed word from the Portuguese. But thank you so much for making the time. I think it was a very insightful, inspiring conversation. You shared a lot. And thank you for the candor with which you shared everything about your life so openly with all candidness. And I'm sure that there are many more journeys to cover. And we would love to also have you as a part of the Magnificent Seven, the Mojosh Magnificent Seven, as we call it now, oratory experience sometime. Yeah. So great, Anne, and keep doing your good work. And
Thank
we
you,
will be in touch.
And you continue. You continue doing what you're doing. You are light, and the world needs light.
Thank you, ma'am. And we should surely nominate you for the Karmavir Awards, because we are planning to have the next live session in 2022, inshallah, like you say. So thank you for making the time, and take care and stay safe.
Thank you, Jerry. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.